Good evening. In the depths of his grief, a dad's warning to other parents tonight: search your children, make sure they don't have knives. In his first TV interview, Christopher Sullivan has also pleaded with both teenagers and adults to think about the consequences of their actions, because for him, the consequence was losing his only child, Finbar, a young man who went up to Primrose Hill on a warm evening, never to come home alive. In a moment, we'll have an update on the police investigation. But first, here's Helen Keenan.
While he was painting this portrait of his son, Finn was being stabbed to death on Primrose Hill.
I got the call from one of his friends. I went straight there and they wouldn't let me in because it was a crime scene. I said, can you just let me through? I got to go and see my son. I got to see my son. I just want to hold his hand before he dies. And then he said, get away for the CID. And then I knew. When the CID came and said, Mrs. Sullivan, your son's dead. He bled to death.
A balmy evening at a beauty spot before fighting broke out, claiming one life and leaving another in hospital. Finn had been there to test out his new camera, a 21st birthday present. An avid filmmaker, he shot footage for celebrity clients and had filmed drill music videos. His father told us about their final conversation.
It was like, see you later, Dad. I'll be back later. I'll make you dinner. And I'm having to pinch myself every 5 minutes to really think that he's never going to be here. I'm never going to hear that laugh.
What was your relationship like with Finn?
Well, as he said to me the other day, you're more than a dad to me. You're my best ever friend. I couldn't live without you. That's my birthday. Happy birthday to the son I'd always wished for. Now I have nothing to live for. Everything was taken away from me.
Young people need more opportunities, and knife crime needs stronger prison sentences, he says. But part of the anger over his son's death has been directed at the police.
What would your message be to the Met Police Commissioner?
I'd say you're doing a terrible job. If there'd been police on the street, this wouldn't have happened. They should have had like a dozen policemen just going walking around the park. Why not? If they're just on a rotation, they would have at least stopped the fight. They would have at least got Finn before he died. Where were they?
Chris and Leah are now parents grieving. He was his only son and describes his life as now living in unbridled despair. This is his message to parents.
Children that might, or youths carry knives, search them before the way out. Make sure they don't have knives, because I'll tell you one thing, you do not want to look around one day and realise that you created this thing that's given me this pain.
Before we left, he told us he wanted us to see Finn's bedroom.
There's the pictures he put up his wall. That's his great-grandfather who was a Maori.
See that he was a young man who didn't smoke or drink alcohol and simply spent hours on his passion, filming and editing. In a home surrounded by art, poignant that this is now his favourite painting.
And if you're struggling with loss, there is always help and advice available. We've got a list of resources at itv.com/London. Just scroll down the page. Well, Helen has joined us in the studio. It was a very emotional interview with Finn's dad.
Yeah, it really was. And he told me he now wants to dedicate his life to supporting charities that were close to Finn's heart so that some good does come out of this situation. But the reality is that he's only a week on since his son was so abruptly taken from him. Now, look, the Met have told us they have increased the number of officers on patrol in Primrose Hill, and there's also been an update in the investigation. There was a dramatic moment in court today. Now, 27-year-old Oluwa Damiola Ogunyankin, who's from Enfield, has been charged with murder. He appeared at Stratford Magistrates Court today to confirm his personal details. But before the end of the hearing, he said from the dock, "I didn't kill anybody, I didn't stab anybody. They've got the wrong person." Now, he was remanded into custody and he will next appear at the Old Bailey on Wednesday.
OK, thanks very much. Women living in Epsom have spoken of their fear of going for nights out after a woman in her 20s was raped by a group of men after leaving a club. It's thought the attack happened outside a church in the early hours of Saturday morning. Police are still searching for the attackers. Our correspondent Simon Harris has the latest.
Epsom's Labyrinth Club is a popular venue. Even today there was no pause in the video messaging outside the front door. Dance, drink, repeat is one of the club's slogans. But in the early hours of Saturday morning, a woman in her 20s says she was followed from Labyrinth and raped outside the nearby Methodist church by several men.
Women and girls should be able to go out and go about their daily business, whether at night or whatever, and feel safe. So it's absolutely appalling to know that this has happened in Epsom.
The attack has not surprisingly shocked people in this normally quiet commuter town. In the high street I spoke to Amy and Nina, who grew up in Epsom and used to go to the club before it became Labyrinth.
It's terrifying. I've got an 18-year-old sister and she started to go out and it just makes you not want them to go out.
Usually when we go out, like, we're in groups and we never sort of feel vulnerable as a group of girls, but obviously since hearing all of that now, it sort of makes you extra paranoid.
But it's not just young women worried and feeling vulnerable. Jo is a mum.
It's absolutely devastating for the victim and her family, but also as a mum of two teenage daughters, it makes me really, really worried about their safety, the safety of women in the local community. I'd like to think that in Epsom I would be entirely safe walking the street, whether it be 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. But it's not. You've always got one eye open. I don't wear my headphones as much anymore.
Janet has 3 granddaughters.
My son tracks their phone and pays for Ubers or taxis, whatever. But yes, it does worry the life out of me because they're just not safe.
The police say they're working to piece together exactly how the attack unfolded. It takes less than 2 minutes to walk from the nightclub to the church. There are no fewer than 10 security cameras on buildings and in shop windows along the route. It's believed video footage from the cameras has already been viewed by detectives. Surrey Police says the victim is being supported by a specialist liaison officer.
She shouldn't have had to have gone through this. However, her recovery will be hugely influenced by how she is treated now. I would hope that they are giving her the space that she needs.
The police haven't yet released descriptions of any suspects. Simon Harris, ITV News, Epsom.
Next tonight, it says something about the scale of online child exploitation and the horror of the abuse in pictures. The Met is looking to use artificial intelligence to help sort through images. AI could help analyse material, sparing officers some of the upsetting pictures that they have to look at and help get to victims faster. Well, Yasmin Bottleby is at New Scotland Yard for us. Yasmin, can you explain to us how this would work?
Well, Charlene, at the moment, officers have to spend hours going through distressing graphic material. What they have to do is a really long manual process where they review and grade each piece of content according to its severity, grade A being the very worst. And of course, it's really traumatic for officers. It's also a very slow process at a time when they might need to act quickly to help a child who could be in danger. So they're looking at whether they might be able to use AI to speed this up. They say it could make the process much quicker when they're going through these huge volumes of material. And as you say, the scale of the crime really is huge. Online child sexual abuse and exploitation is one of the fastest rising crimes. It goes up by 25% each year. The Met Police actually has to deal with 12% of the total national crimes of this nature. And just last year, they say that they safeguarded 1,300 children. Of course, the use of AI in policing has been controversial in the past. You just have to think about live facial recognition cameras. And some people have concerns about taking human beings outside of the process. The Met, though, insisting that human judgment will also always be at the heart of this. So right now, the force is talking to tech firms about how it could work. They're figuring out testing for how it would work. But they say that the scale and complexity of this kind of crime is changing, and the way that they respond to it also has to change.
OK, thanks very much, Yasmin. Still to come on the programme, Sally will be here explaining why hay fever season keeps getting earlier and earlier. Plus, only tears of joy for Rachel Zegler, how wowing crowds outside the Palladium helped bag the star, and Olivier. But first, dog walkers in West London are watching their pets extra closely today after warning someone may be leaving contaminated meat out to poison them. At least one dog was left unwell, while 2 foxes were found dead. Max Martel has more.
A police warning to dog owners. Your pets could be deliberately poisoned in the park.
Well, it's scary. Say hi, Mocha. Pets are like children to us. So very scary that there are people out there wanting to cause them harm.
Just inexplicable.
Who's this? This is Ziggy.
Well, I'm absolutely horrified. I mean, who would do something like that? Some people just don't like dogs. But, well, what a terrible way of showing it.
Jack is a mixture between an American Cocker and a Chihuahua, so he's a Cocker-Wawa. What a terrible thing to do to an area that has so many lovely dogs walking about in the park.
We're in Holland Park, where police say suspected poisoned meat was discovered. It's thought a dog fell ill after eating toxic chicken, and 2 foxes were found dead with no visible injuries.
I think it's awful. Like, why would you poison meat and leave it in the park for dogs to come and eat? I think something needs to be done about it.
So Kilo is a what?
He's an Italian Mastiff.
What is Pepper?
She's a Shiranian.
Half Shiranian?
Half Shih Tzu, half Pomeranian.
Obviously, she's my dog. I'm so concerned, and I'm very lucky that she's a fussy eater. She really doesn't...
She wouldn't go to anything random?
No, she would not, no.
The Metropolitan Police told us that they shared the information about the poisoned meat as a precaution and to raise awareness amongst dog owners and dogs like Thor.
He's 5.5, and this is his brother, Loki, who's 4.5.
And do you think this is deliberate?
It seems like it's deliberate, yeah. I mean, who would leave poisoned meat on the floor somewhere where they know dogs are going to be there and other animals like foxes? So I think it is deliberate. Whether someone's trying to poison foxes or dogs, I mean, either is terrible.
Poisoned food has also been found in nearby Brompton Cemetery.
We don't know for definite if it's targeted towards dogs necessarily. Some people might find them a nuisance. There's a lot more, the dog population has grown massively. And it could just be people just don't like dogs.
For now, suspicion lingers in the park, and walking the dog doesn't seem so safe. Max Martel, ITV News.
OK, let's find out what's on the evening news with Mary.
Coming up in the programme, the Southport Public Inquiry finds the killer was an extreme danger and his attack on a children's dance class could and should have been prevented. America's blockade begins at the Strait of Hormuz after peace talks between the US and Iran ended without a deal. And Northern Ireland's Rory McIlroy makes history in Augusta as he retains his Masters title. Would you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
Now, our guest tonight was on leave from the British Army when his life completely changed. He was hit by a car while on his motorbike, leading to a month in a coma. When he woke up, he was paralysed from the waist down. That was 2012. He's gone through a roller coaster of emotions between then and now. But now the father of 2 and former professional para snow sports star, that's a mouthful, is raising money for research into a cure for spinal and cord injury. And Ollie, you were doing it by being the first person to reach Everest base camp by hand cycle.
Yeah.
Why on earth have you decided to do that?
I suppose it comes from hope. I think when I was first injured, when I woke up from that coma and was told I was paralysed from the chest down, and I lost all hope. I felt like my future was over. I lost my career, my identity. And living with a spinal cord injury is tough, right? To know that there's no cure. And don't get me wrong, you can still live an awesome life, but there's that feeling, that feeling of wanting to be able to walk again, be able to recover. And I felt like that hope wasn't there until I spoke to a friend last year, and she told me she'd just been on a medical trial in Switzerland, and she had the same injury as me, and now she's able to walk. And don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. There's still a long way to go, but it's real, right? Yeah. Progress is happening in this spinal cord injury world, and I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to get involved and tell a bit of a story.
And you're not doing it in order to finance your own way to go to Switzerland to get this work. You're actually raising money for a charity to actually look into research that will benefit a whole community of people.
Exactly. And I think, there's that wider piece. I would love to know that people wouldn't have to go through the journey that I've been through. Yeah. But equally, on a selfish note, I've just had a little baby girl, and how amazing would it be if I could walk her down the aisle when she's older? And I suppose there's that hope to be able to achieve that.
And I mean, sidebar being that you've got a little baby, like 7 weeks old, and are also going through some grueling training for this, 6 days a week. So tell us about the training.
So training's been really full on. Most of it is actually indoors, just because my handbike, I'm lying pretty much flat. So cars don't really see you, get covered in loads of road grime.
Right, yeah.
And managing 2 kids at home, I also need to minimise the time. So it's as quick as possible to do it indoors and then be really conscious of my numbers and kind of geeking out on the data.
Well, I mean, it will take 2 weeks.
Yep.
And you'll be going to 3,000 to 5,000 metres, low oxygen levels, extreme conditions. How are you feeling about it?
I'm really nervous, to be completely honest. I'm really nervous. I'm kind of getting that kind of nervous anxiety. I can't stay in the same place for too long. But I'm really excited. Yeah. But it's a scary thing we're doing, right? It hasn't. No one's done it under their own power before. People have been there with spinal cord injuries, but not under their own power, and that's intimidating. It's intimidating, and I suppose it's self-imposed pressure, but it's just wanting to do it well. Yeah.
Now, you've spoken before about that initial shame that you felt when you started becoming a wheelchair user, and I guess about the preconceived ideas you had of those who used wheelchairs because of accidents. What do you think about your journey to get to this point, married, father of 2, about to head to Everest?
When I was lying in that hospital bed, I didn't realise how negatively I viewed people with disabilities until I viewed myself through that very same lens. Yeah. And I didn't know what the future would hold, but I definitely didn't feel like it would hold anything that I've been able to achieve along the way. And I think it's just having an incredible support structure around you to help change those kind of internal conversations you have with yourself.
Absolutely. And those 2 kids that you've got in your head will be so proud of their dad, I tell you that. But I tell you, someone who loves a bit of a challenge is our Sal.
Oh, not to be compared to Ollie. If I can do it in 5 minutes in a lunch hour and have a drink at the end, I'm on, yeah. But I would have thought the kids were a big enough challenge. And then you go, oh my gosh, and do this. That's insane. But you'll be fine, yeah?
Hopefully.
Don't say hopefully. Yes, you will. We like positivity on this show.
And we wish you some good weather along the way. What's it like out there?
So I think it's really changeable. So it starts reasonably warm, and then as it's the mountains and we go up, it really changeable.
Well, if you give your own personal forecast. Ollie, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having
me. And make sure you keep us updated on your progress. So, Sal, how is the weather looking?
Well, it's okay. It's kind of mixed, but before we go to weather, I want to talk about pollen, because if you have hay fever, you might be scratching your head as well as your eyes at the moment, because the season is getting longer and longer. Want to know why? Take a look at this.
As the bees get busy with the spring blooms, maybe your first sniffles of the season have already started. About 1/4 of people in the UK get hay fever, but flowers like these that rely on insects for pollination are usually not to blame. It's the fine powder that's carried in the wind that has the biggest impact. These airborne types of pollen are broken up into different seasons. The tree pollen starts being released early in the year, in February, before grass pollen, the cause of most hay fever, kicks in around late May. After that, it's up to the weed pollen to take us into early autumn. But nature's calendar is shifting.
Here in London, after a wet and mild winter, we're expecting a bumper year for blossom and spring flowers, which looks fabulous. But it's not such great news for hay fever sufferers with our warming climate. Why? Well, the pollen season seems to be extending, and that means people will be feeling the impacts of pollen both sooner and later than they may be used to.
These birch tree catkins, they've released great clouds of pollen when they're warm enough and the wind shakes them.
The earlier starts to spring have been noticed by the team at RHS Wisley.
Well, this season's been a little early. It started very early in December, then we had a cold spell in January that set everything back, but since then it's been, on the whole, relatively mild. So we're a week or two ahead of where we normally are in terms of grass growing, hedges sprouting and flowers coming out.
Scientists say this early burst of pollen is not unique to this spring.
There's research that's been done into how different types of pollen are being impacted by climate change. The research has shown that for some types of pollen, for example oak and grass pollen, the season's actually becoming earlier, but also birch pollen season is becoming more severe. So hay fever sufferers could be seeing their symptoms appearing earlier in the year, and they could be seeing those symptoms for longer periods of time as well.
The good news is that our daily pollen forecasts have started and can help those suffering plan ahead, be it closing windows on high count days or having medication ready for when levels rise.
So the pollen is high to medium over the next few days, and you can find it on our lunchtime and our late weather bulletins. But the weather itself, well, there's some rain. Do you know what? It's getting a bit warmer. Here we go.
Come rain or shine, Octopus Energy sponsors ITV London weekday weather.
Hello again, a very good evening to you. Well, if you think this is beautiful, it is, you're correct. Take a look at this. Oh, isn't that just adorable? Good old spring. Let's see if the weather's going to be adorable as well. Well, it's gradually getting a little bit warmer as we go through the week. Quite a lot of cloud and some showers and some patchy rain, but there's plenty of dry weather around as well. So show you the pressure chart and you can see that we've got a few fronts heading our way. A little bit more unsettled for Wednesday and Thursday. Friday's not looking too bad at the moment, and also looking like it'll be the warmest day of the week. Right, let's take a look at the detail then. So still a few showers outside tonight to come through, but they will eventually clear off, and there you go, all those clear skies overnight into tomorrow morning. So very much like last night, it will be quite chilly by the end of the night. The odd little blue speck indicating there'll be some rural frost and some patchy fog around as well. So a fresh start tomorrow morning. The best of the sunshine in the morning and staying with us longest in the east. You can see from the west we've got this cloud gradually edging our way. And perhaps the further west you are, you might get a little bit of patchy rain. But for most of us, a dry day, highs of 15 to 16 degrees. That's just a smidge up on today. And then for the evening, again to the west, a little bit of patchy rain, but still plenty of dry weather around, quite a lot of cloud. And for Wednesday, a windier day, a bit muggier. There'll be some outbreaks of rain at times, but hopefully some drier spells too. For Thursday, we're expecting some showers, so we'll keep an eye on the forecast for you. And as I said, for Friday, those temperatures may be getting up to 20 degrees. That's it. Cheerio.
Octopus Energy sponsors ITV London weekday weather.
And finally, he came to the capital for adventures, and so a triumphant night at the Royal Albert Hall surely goes on the list. Paddington swept the board at the Oliviers last night, with the show bearing his name, taking 7 awards, including Best New Musical. Meanwhile, wowing audiences down a side street near Oxford Circus helped a US star pick up an Olivier as well. Faye Barker was watching.
The biggest night in British theatre attracted big names in showbiz as the awards marked their 50th year.
It's really, really extraordinarily compelling.
Wonderful celebration and an honour to be hosting it.
I don't suppose you'd like to share my marmalade sandwich?
The big winner was the musical about a little bear, Paddington, scooping 7 awards. Including for the 2 people who take on the title role.
My partner in crime. Artie Shah, you are radiant in every way, shape or form.
My darling son Xavier, Mummy is going to keep making you proud, and I'm going to keep showing you that being different is a good thing.
Rachel Zegler's performance in Evita, where she sang on the balcony outside the London Palladium, earned her the Best Actress in a Musical award.
Thank you so much to the City of London for making me feel so welcome here. I never could have imagined it. It was the honor, please, thank you. It was the honor of a lifetime singing to the people on Argyle Street 8 times a week. I can't believe I got so lucky as to sing in front of thousands of you. And it's so beautiful that Jamie Lloyd made such an accessible moment of theater for people to walk by and witness something really, really cool.
It was Evita that cemented Dame Elaine Page's place as the First Lady of the West End, and she was handed a special award for her 6 decades in musical theatre.
Deeply grateful for every collaboration, every performance, every note that has led me here. Thank you so much for this honour, and most of all, thank you for letting me spend a lifetime doing what I love. Thank you so much. Thank you.
The revival of Into the Woods, nominated for 11 awards, went home with just 2. But it was tough competition, as no one could dispute it's nice having a bear about the house. Faye Barker, ITV News.
Oh, congrats to all the winners. OK, that's it from us. The Evening News with Mary is next. But for now, for all of us on the London team, enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.